Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, October 26th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? Good to be on, man. I am. This is going to be a fun show for sure. I've got all the replays watched. If you watched the pre-entry show when we were doing it kind of live, just kept saying, guys, there's a lot to do. I've got it all done, so I'm very excited for the show. There's a ton of horses I want to talk about on the show.
Well, yeah, we have officially the field. Well, for the most part, the field's set. The pre-entries are out. We had, I believe, off the top of my head, 205 pre-entries horses. Does that sound right? And then obviously the entries will come out, the official fields. 205 will come out next week, Monday, and then that's it. So, was there any surprises? We'll get into each race by race, but any surprises that came out as far as the pre-entries go that made you say, well, that's a race that I'm more interested in now, or maybe the opposite?
No, not really. Just because surprise would be kind of the weirdest. I wouldn't be surprised, just excited, like more excited than I thought I would be on some of them, but not really surprised because you just didn't really know what Europeans were coming over. I thought as a whole, Europe sent, like, the depth of it was more than what I thought it would be. Like, I think we've had maybe better horses, like the very top end, but we have tons of European horses coming over. And I think it wasn't really a surprise, but that was kind of the overall theme. It's like, wow, they've really spiced this thing up, whether it be Europe or Japan.
Yeah, it's interesting. 14 Breeders' Cup races, and then if you throw in the Japan contingent, that obviously are becoming more prominent on dirt, and not to mention, like you said, the Euros, like 14 races. Could we see 7 plus, more than half go to non-U.S. horses? It seems very possible.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah.
When you look at the turf races alone, there's not a turf horse really in America that you feel super confident in,
No, I will get into it, but no. I think it's they just look really tough, and they sometimes these whether it be Japan or Europe, they look tough in races where they usually aren't. So, yeah, we'll get really into it. It's gonna be like the international flavor. Usually, I should say, it's a nice supplement to the Breeders' Cup for us. Like, they're not the main attraction. Sometimes they are, but they're not like, wow. But this year, without the international horses, this thing would have looked pretty light. But with the amount of them coming over, it's like, wow, this is this feels more like a world championship this year more than ever.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we have a lot to go over here. So we're not going to waste too much time here in the opening, but I do want to say we have, thanks to our good friend, Shoddy. I'll mention this a few times on the show. Our good friend, loyal follower, Shoddy. She won it. I don't know how did she do it? She won some tickets through TVG, and obviously Shoddy has tickets. So we have a free ticket for Friday and Saturday, GA ticket from Friday and Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. Free ticket for both days. To one lucky subscriber. So all you need to do on this video is obviously you got to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that's key. And then leave a comment below in this video and let us know who your Breeders' Cup Classic winner is. And then we'll randomly pick somebody from the comments, and you'll get a free ticket to the Breeders' Cup general admission. So thank you, Shoddy, for offering that. And obviously can't wait to see her and a bunch of Racing Dudes contingents out at the Breeders' Cup. This time next week we will be there, I guess, or close. We'll be on our way.
I think we'll almost be there. I think we land at like maybe 4:00 local time, so I guess we'd be landing right about now. So yeah, that's going to be pretty dang awesome. I thought about that this morning. I was getting ready and doing work. I thought, I'll have to get up real early next week because we'll be flying. So Yeah, excited for sure. And like I said, I don't think I think the lead up to this has kind of been a little bit like, well, whatever. But now that I've gone through it and watched all the horses that are coming over, it's like this is going to be a little bit better than what I thought it would be.
Kevin, by the way, there's no writing that says we have to hang out with people that win this ticket.
No,
We're just giving you the ticket. It's general admission. It's not like we're sitting next to them.
No.
Especially if it's you, we definitely would not let that happen. But no, no. I mean, no. Get me wrong. We'd love to hang out and see everybody, but if we're not. It's not in the writing that you have to hang out with, or we have to hang out with you all day. So, all right, let's get into it. We got a big show. We're going to dive into 2023 Breeders' Cup pre-entries for each of the 14 World Championship races at Santa Anita Park. Who looks like a best bet? What potential favorites maybe are vulnerable? Like post positions. Which races do you think a post position could have a big factor in? We'll answer all those questions and more. Let's go. Can you feel it? It is officially Breeders' Cup season. We are just a mere weeks away from the 40th annual Breeders' Cup World Championships, and we are pumped to offer you our Breeders' Cup 2023 betting Bible right now at racingdudes.com. It is an official betting guide to the Breeders' Cup World Championships. You'll get the exact bets that myself and Aaron Halterman will be playing every single race on both Friday and Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. You'll get pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 analysis, top 4 picks from every single handicapper at racingdudes.com. And we have a special bonus this year and this year alone for the Breeders' Cup betting Bible. You will now get the 14 trends to the 2023 Breeders' Cup absolutely free, included in this betting Bible. It is something that I've been putting together for years now. I pick out one very important trend for every single race in the Breeders' Cup, and gives you an opportunity to kind of see the trends, what we've seen in the past. You name it, it's in there, and it gives you an idea and maybe an angle that you can play, maybe times to play the favorite, times to play against. It's included free in the betting Bible. This is available right now at racingdudes.com, or you can get it for free. You can get both the betting Bible and the 14 trends absolutely for free if you are a premium subscriber at racingdudes.com. So you get $70 a month is our minimum value, $70 a month, and you'll get those two for free, which are $50 for sale right now at racingdudes.com. You do the math. I'm not a genius, but I feel like that's a good price. Go to racingdudes.com. Learn more about the official betting guide to the Breeders' Cup World Championships. We are so excited that it's here. We are just weeks away. Stay tuned. Let's cash some tickets at the Breeders' Cup. I'm not going to wait. I don't want to see Magic again. But no, by the way, that's my favorite part of the show, see that good-looking guy. And
Yeah.
But he's wrong. It is 1 week away now. So 1 week away from the Breeders' Cup. And speaking of said Breeders' Cup, let's take a look, Halterman, at the pre-entries. They were released on Wednesday. And we'll kick things off here with Friday. Race 5. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. This is typically a tough race for the Euros to win. It's we talked a little bit about this on the live show, just because of the speed. Don't tend to see the Euros have that legit type speed, especially in the juveniles department. But Juvenile Turf Sprint, Halterman, thoughts on the race so far?
Yeah, to me, watching the replays, it looks like we do have European horses that have pretty good speed coming over, including Big Evs, who's a horse I think is going to be really tough. So I thought, after watching all the replays, a horse like Big Evs probably can spring the gate and get out in a good position. Pearls and Ruby's also another horse, not quite as fast as Big Evs, but should be able to get out there and do some damage. The more I watch the replays, the more I'm kind of convinced we are going to see a European horse win this race, which I know isn't popular. But you look at the American horses that have won this over the years, they've been pretty damn good, right? Four-wheel drive was a very good horse at the time when he won. Golden Pal, obviously a really nice horse. I I think No Name Mets is pretty good for us. I think Crimson Advocate pretty good for us. I think Slider's pretty good for us. Definitely going to see those 3 horses with a big shot, but I thought the European horses were a lot stronger coming over this year than in years past.
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't love like as far as the United States goes. The one horse that I'm super interested in this race is Crimson Advocate, the George Weaver trainee. Just because you kind of have a best of both worlds type situation where, win over, ran. Obviously, he's from here, but then went over to win at Royal Ascot, and then obviously we haven't seen him since. But the fact that you can go over and do that, and then has that experience over here in the United States. To me, that is like a little bit of a best of both worlds. But I do agree. I think Big Evs is the one I'm most fearful of. What do you think about Brightwork? Kind of deciding to maybe go towards this race. I believe this was the first preference in the juvenile fillies. But if this horse were to end up here, is there any indication? There was talk that this horse would go to the turf. I don't think the horse is going to end up running here, but it is interesting that the horse double entered.
Yeah, I didn't really take that one very seriously because of the first preference.
You can see here all the different preferences here.
She's kind of just in no man's land a little bit after she didn't stretch out very well. Probably wouldn't have minded if she took a shot here. She's just kind of in a weird spot. Just didn't run very well last time out. I don't know. Maybe she bounces out of it, but she's kind of in no man's land a little bit. I don't have a lot of interest in her either race.
So there's one race, the juvenile turf sprint. Looks like a lot of the comments do like Big Evs. Kevin likes Big Evs. I have seen a few in here as well for Crimson Advocate. So it definitely I guess Crimson Advocate, to me, it's like Crimson Advocate is obviously a United States horse, but you do get a little bit of both ends. I don't know have you seen is Johnny V going to ride Crimson Advocate? I've not seen that for sure.
I haven't seen any jockeys yet.
So I think that's an interesting who ends up riding. Like, do you have, like, as far as that goes, just for the people listening, like, is there any kind of, when it comes to the Breeders' Cup, obviously you're going to get, typically you're going to get, the best of the best in every race. But is there any kind of swaying that could go on when it comes to trying to figure out, like, say it's an international and which one Ryan Moore's on versus, or whatever? Like, is there any swaying going on with you when it comes to these kind of horses and these kind of races?
Not this race specifically. There are a couple we'll talk about on the show where I do think the jockey, who the jockey picks will tell us a lot. But in this race specifically, I don't think it really matters a whole lot.
Okay, let's go to let's see. This is, I believe, is this the next race on the card? Yeah, this is race 6 on Friday, the NetJets Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Tamara is the one, right? This is probably going to be the shortest price of, I guess it could possibly be the shortest price of the 2 days, but definitely the shortest price seemingly. On Friday, the Mandela undefeated horse, daughter of Beholder, of course. This is a horse that just from that alone is going to get a ton of attention. Then you add in the fact that how good she looked on the track, especially last time out. What are your thoughts? Because I know you have kind of went from one direction to another on her. Kind of thoughts of this race and her specifically.
Yeah, I went into the handicapping thinking, you know what, we're going to try to beat Tamara. Hadn't been 2 turns, only has 2 races. This is a whole different ball game. Came out saying, no, I don't think so. I put Tamara. Well, I shouldn't. First of all, let me just say, if she draws like the 14 hole, then obviously you're going to change things. But all things given equal, I think Tamara is just a better horse than the rest of these. Right now, I think she's the horse I'm going to have on top in this race. I kind of think it's a 2-horse race. I think Candied is really coming on. I think she could beat her. I think she's very talented. I don't think the rest of them are as good as Tamara or Candied. So, like I said, all things being equal, post position is going to change, things for sure. But Tamara and Candied look just better than the rest of the field for me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this one too. Although I did go into it with like, okay, I think she's just better. For one, you have the we're already at Santa Anita, like we know this horse is legit. She probably would be legit anywhere, but the fact that you kind of have that home, um, what do you want to say? Kind of home cooking, home field advantage, so to speak. I like that aspect as well, and I just don't, for a while I thought this was a pretty top heavy field, just in general of this crop. But then the more we've kind of gotten through this, it definitely feels like it's lacking maybe a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's bad, but like Vivi's Dream, for instance, is one it's going to be somewhat of a shorter price. And I just really don't have any interest in Vivi's Dream in this race to win. I think she's a nice horse. I don't think she can win here. And I'm kind of with you. I think it's between those two, Candied um, and Tamara. So obviously, a lot's going to depend. I mean, anytime you have a juvenile race, when you have they're lightly raced, lightly experienced, and you could have situations where post positions can impact that, right? Like if they're making that, like, well, with her, making her first run around 2 turns, say she draws, the 12th hole or 14th hole. I think it gets interesting. At least gives you a thought of like, okay, I think she's my pick too. Like, I don't know. Like whenever you're talking about these juveniles, her running her 3rd race ever, that'd be tough, but maybe she's good enough to do it no matter what. So, do you think she's like you should like? I mean, you think she's going to go off at like 2 to 5?
No, absolutely not. I think she's over even money.
You think
I mean,
so?
14 horse field. If she goes off 2 to 5, I'd be shocked. I think 7 to 5 probably.
That's probably too low. What was Songbird?
Songbird only faced 8 or 9, I feel like, or 7 or 8. I think she was 3 to 5.
Okay.
But I don't know that for sure. I have to look that up. That's been too long. But she faced a lot shorter field. You mentioned Songbird. I know this horse is out of Beholder. Tamara kind of reminds me more of Songbird than Beholder. I think she's a little bit bigger of a horse, like Songbird was. I think she's a little more professional than Beholder was this time in her career. She just seems really professional. I loved how she didn't just fly out there and try to take the lead in the last race there at Del Mar. She just sat right off horses and just dominated them. The way she's winning and the way she's just kind of got it all seemed like under control. She's just super professional. And I think that's going to be to her advantage. I know she's trying something for the first time. I know that is a tough ask. But you also have a trainer that knows kind of what he's doing. And I just kind of feel like she's going to show up and be really tough. But like I said, if she gets a little tired down the lane, Candied is definitely one that I think is going to be flying from the back and has a shot. But if Tamara just sits there and gets that nice socking trip and kind of just stretches out like I think she's going to, I don't think they'll beat her. I've already heard that, she's had a couple perfect trips. That's what horses like this do, though. Like everybody always said, American Pharoah, he gets a good trip. It's because he's faster than most of the other horses in the race. And if you ask him to shut off behind a horse or two that's really flying out there, he'll do it. Well, what trip do you expect they're going to get when they're like that? And that's Tamara. She's faster than most of these horses. She could take the lead if she wants. If horses are flying, she's shown that she can turn it off and sit behind. Well, how are we going to get a bad trip out of that? And so that's kind of the deal. So gets out of the gate. I think she's going to be tough.
Yeah, I looked it up. She was 3 to 5? Songbird was that day, and the reason I bring her up as well is like this has been a race that's been typically won by. Okay, let's put it this way: the favorites don't tend to win this race unless they're like elite, right? That's kind of been the common. Echo Zulu was one. Songbird was another. A lot of times you don't have the favorite. These heavy favorites win this kind of race. So I guess the question is like, do you think Tamara is that kind of horse? And if you do, then I have zero problem with singling her. Because I just maybe that's just as easy as it gets. But if you don't know that she's that good, or that she's 3 to 5 good, Songbird good, then maybe it's a good reason to play against. So it's kind of where I'm at with her. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to play her, but I do think she is easily the one to beat. All right, let's go to the race number 7, the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Kind of. I was glad to see Hard to Justify get in the race. That was one that I was surprised was not kind of mentioned on some of the early stuff we looked at. But really, past that, to me, it's either her or you're going somewhere overseas.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think She Feels Pretty and Buchu are better than Hard to Justify. So I actually think those two horses are two that could win. I think Hard to Justify does have a shot. I think if we're gonna win one of these turf races on the juvenile side, I think this is the one where we could do it. But it just kind of feels like you've got Carla's Way, you got Porta Fortuna, Les Povats. I just kind of think they're good. They're not like crazy good. And I just feel like our division, our juvenile fillies turf division has been a little bit better than a juvenile turf. So I think we can win this one. It's just I'm not sure who to go on this one. This is one I'm really up in the air with.
It definitely feel okay. So I guess a better question to ask is, whenever you look at this, and I don't, maybe it's just a general Friday to Saturday, concept every year, but do you have any kind, obviously you have less races on Friday as far as Breeders' Cup races goes. Do you feel like you're a little lighter on the budget on Friday versus Saturday, in a general sense, like, just because the horses are less, they've been running, they're juveniles. We don't have a lot of history to go with. You have quite more question marks, that kind of thing.
Probably would be the best answer. I don't know 1,000% for sure on that, but most likely probably would probably be the best answer. Yeah, just because I think juveniles aside, the last three races we're going to talk about here, I'm still like on the fence a little bit, where those two earlier races, I kind of have a better idea. So I would say, yeah, it's going to be pretty, not light, but definitely lighter on Friday.
Kevin says he's always says that, and he ends up hitting the ATM on Saturday. Well, the problem is Friday is it can be, we've had great Fridays where we've had huge payouts, and then, cash some big tickets. And there's a good reason, because Friday's tough, because even if you do get the winner, if you're playing the exactas or your tries or whatever, you got to, it's tough, because there's so many question marks. These international horses, how they're going to run, are total guesses. A lot of times in these juvenile races, you get a weird, 40-1 horse that runs second. Whatever it is, like it's a tough. I mean, they're all tough, but I always feel like these juvenile races, even the juvenile itself, is really hard to come up with that like exact trifecta exacta on this Friday.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of depends on the years how because I remember like 2000, I believe it was 19, or 2018 or 19 when it was at Churchill. I think it was 18 actually. 2018 game winner, newspaper of record. Like that Friday, I liked a hell of a lot better than Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Then like the COVID year 2020, I hated Friday and loved Saturday. So it just kind of depends on the year. I don't hate Friday, but I think I'll like Saturday better once we get the entries out.
Yeah, and I think too, like, Duckman's like last year, like you said, like was his best juvenile day ever. And I think it just depends on your opinion. Obviously, last year, when you have like a juvenile horse that you're excited that it's coming overseas, or, not to rub salt in the wounds, but the last, if you had modern games,
Yeah,
that could be one. I mean, even though you did not cash, but you could have been on that one that you at least went into it thinking I'm going to bet a lot on that horse because that horse had a lot of hype, and maybe you like that horse. But in a general sense, I'm kind of that way too. I think too is like, you don't want to like, you're too excited about the next day, so you don't want to blow your budget too quick on Friday. But let's go to the next one here. The FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile. This is race 8 on Friday. This one's going to be a fun one, dude, because, kind of like last year where you had the Cave Rock versus Forte. Cave Rock obviously was the favorite. Forte upset. Well, I guess you could call it upset, but based on the odds did. This year it's kind of similar in a sense that it's you've got like a Pletcher, you got a Brad Cox, you've got some of these horses like coming in, but then you've got Bob Baffert, and it's not just one Bob Baffert, it's two Bob Bafferts. It's Muth and Prince of Monaco. Both horses have looked really good. Both horses should be short prices here, I would think. Prince of Monaco probably being the favorite. Thoughts on the Baffert contingent and them possibly getting upset?
I think from a curiosity standpoint, this is the race I'm most looking forward to on Friday. I think from a betting standpoint, it's the race I hate maybe more than any other one. I don't really think any of these horses are that good, but I don't think any of them are that bad. I think a lot of them look exactly the same. And I think from a betting standpoint, that's almost the worst thing you could kind of see. And there's also horses that were really good at one race and really bad the next race. And it's like, oh God, now you got inconsistencies thrown in with a group that's good, not great.
Yeah.
I don't know, just to be honest, and hopefully post position jockey choices. I'll throw the jockey thing you mentioned earlier. I think this race, the jockeys are going to be really important. Hopefully when the actual entries come out, I feel a little bit better. I got to be honest, I've watched the replays of all these horses. Obviously, I've watched every horse replay on these pre-entries. I don't know what to do with this group. I can't sit there and you watch tomorrow, you watch Candied on the female side of things. They stand out. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to stand out the day of the race, but you watch the replays back and you're like, those two are better coming into this thing. You watch this, they all kind of look the same to me.
Well, it's kind of like you alluded to. It's a weird race in a sense that they've all ran at least the ones that you're most excited about maybe are the ones they've all ran these really good races, and they've all ran some pretty not so good races as well. You look at Fierceness debut, looked like the Derby winner, the juvenile winner. I mean, gosh, name the race, right? And then just couldn't have looked worse really in the Champagne last time out. There's really not a lot of excuses. Shows up here. So then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe, obviously it didn't scare him off to run in a race like this. And then you look at a horse, say, like Muth, who, has seemingly figured it out, but also, didn't look particularly awesome in the best pal, got beat by Prince of Monaco. Prince of Monaco, by the way, won the Del Mar Charity, but didn't really look like ultra impressive that day. You know what I mean? And then like a horse like the Wine Steward who got beat last time out. Timberlake, a horse that didn't look good in the Hopeful and then looked really good in the Champagne. So it's pretty clear what the issue is here. It's just like you've had all these horses that have ran some nice races and then some that have, then they've ran this, it's like for no reason have ran poorly. So I kind of wonder if it's as simple as Muth over Prince of Monaco. I know it's not really a sexy pick, but maybe those two are just better than everybody else.
I think if you do that, you have a shot to win, obviously. I mean, a better shot than doing a lot of other different stuff, but the next thing I'll say is I certainly don't think it's that simple.
No.
But I also think that is a likely situation that could happen. If that makes sense. I don't get why everybody thinks Muth is I've seen so many people say Muth's a lock. I don't get it. And again, I may sit here a week from today and we'll be live at the Airbnb and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to pick Muth to win this race. Very possibly. I don't get that he's some kind of superstar though. I don't think so at all. I think he's good, Prince Monaco. I mean, he really didn't run that well last time out. He won, but it wasn't that great of a race. I almost question if the race 2 back, that number is pretty faulty.
Mm-hmm.
That seems weird that number was that high. So that kind of confuses you. He's never been 2 turns. I know Tamar's never been 2 turns, so it's not like a deal breaker, but he didn't really look like a horse that wanted to go any longer when he went 7 furlongs. When Tamar went 7 furlongs, she wasn't even really asked. So, and then the fierceness thing, I asked our buddy, I said, hey, did fierceness bleed in that last race? Praying the answer was yes. Cause I thought, okay, maybe he had an excuse next time out. Maybe they can get that fixed. And then maybe he could pop at a big number. Nope, did not bleed. I was like, are you sure? He's like, I'm sure. I was like, well, shit, because there's no explanation for why he was so bad. So I don't know. Maybe I'm making it a little bit tougher than what it should be, but I just think this is a weird situation.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's tough because if you're playing against fierceness and and then that, like, you could definitely see it's like, well, we have no reason to think why we have no idea why he ran that bad. It's like he ran so bad that it's unbelievable how bad he ran. So I'm not on the boat. I'm definitely not. By the way, I think you're right on the number. Like, so if you look at just strictly buyers, Muth. This is why buyers are so full of shit. Muth regressed. Okay, let me say, like, he regressed in the American Pharaoh. Okay, from a numbers perspective. Now,
And I
tell me
mean,
how that makes any sense whatsoever.
and you watch the replays, it was clearly his best race, not even
Yes,
close.
he ran a 93 buyer
Yeah.
in the best pal, and part of the reason why he ran that or why he got that number is because they gave Prince of Monaco a 103
Yeah.
for that race, and so
Yeah.
you naturally have that. So you got a 91 um, in the American Pharaoh, the Del Mar Charity. Prince of Monaco got a 87. So I can believe that regression more than I can the Muth regression, but you still want, like, none of these horses have run, well, not, you can't say none of them. A lot of them haven't ran 2 turns, and so you have that, especially the 2 top Baffert contenders. Just ran his Moose just ran his 2 turn race. His first one last time out looked good. Prince of Monaco hasn't even done it, and so it's like you don't know what he's going to do. Makes it tough to kind of handicap. Timberlake ran it. I think that was a 1 turn mile, wasn't it, in the Champagne? So it's like you don't know what that horse is going to do here as well. So lots of question marks. I certainly don't think it's a single bull race.
It might be an all race. I mean, it's just like, I just can't get over, like, when I watched it, because a lot of races, you watch enough replays and you at least go, here's, if not 1 or 2, here's 3 or 4 or 5 that they really kind of stand out. You just watch this, it's like, oh boy, this is a grab bag. And like, Timberlake won that race, but it was in the slop. And so you got like those sloppy performance up at Belmont, you got to kind of think about too, or up at Aqueduct, I should say. It's just kind of a strange one. It's a strange race. So again, maybe, like I said, the jockey situations, like Baffert's got 3 of them. What jock goes where? I think that'll tell us a lot. So it's going to have to rely on kind of some methods like that versus what I'm seeing with my eyes. Because what I'm seeing with my eyes is this is a mess.
Noted. And Johannes Brahms have first preference in the juvenile turf, which leads us to the juvenile turf, race 9 on Friday, your last Breeders' Cup race. There is a race 10 after this one, but it is the juvenile turf. And again, we've seen this is a race, to me, where you can at least, okay, for one, I don't know that we have a U.S. horse that you want to, like, really count on here. And 2, this has been a race historically that the international horses have done quite well with. And to me, when you look at this race, it seemed, you got some Applebee's, you got, several O'Briens. It makes it a tough case to go against any of them.
I agree 100% with that one. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you watch the replays here. It's like, boy, I think they've got us over a barrel. This is going to be tough. I think Carson's Run's a decent horse. I think maybe with a shot, but unquestionable River Timber, they look pretty good. Mountain Bear, Legend of Time, Johannes Brahms, they all look really good. I think what jock goes where is going to make you kind of go one way or another with these Aidan O'Brien horses. I think he's kind of got us over a barrel in this race. It's going to be pretty tough for us in this one.
Yeah, I mean, who is the best? Who's our best? Is Noted our best? I don't know.
Like a Gate Road, maybe.
Yeah, and I didn't really. I mean, that's pretty. I was after that last performance, even though he won. I was kind of like, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I can't play that horse in the Breeders' Cup though. And so I don't necessarily love him. I'm if I'm gonna pick one, it'd be Carson's Run. I did think that last race was pretty impressive in the summer. Made a big run, and looked really good. Got beat my boy Prince, who came back to win as well. So I do think if there is one in this race, as far as the United States goes, that would be where I'd kind of lean. But if that's what I'm saying, right, then that I don't think that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I think with the Gate Road, the one thing about him, you kind of write him off before every race, and you kind of even like 3/4 of the way through, you're like, well, he didn't fire it, and then he gets up and wins, so he could surprise you, but he doesn't feel like a Breeders' Cup winner to me. Before I go on, I want to address this because Kevin B said, if Aiden sends 4, does he have any confidence in any? Am I reading into this too much? Like who comes for him, that kind of thing. I would guess he's not sending 4. I would guess it'll just be a couple. But yeah, I mean, if he sends 4 horses for this, it is kind of weird. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. If he sends, I don't know like the stats off the top of my head, but I don't think you often see him send 4 in one race unless he has no, real feel for who he thinks can win. So I'm with you. I don't necessarily think though that we're going to see 4 out of this race from him. I think whoever he does end up getting in this race are the ones that you want to, focus on. Maybe let that. And I think this is one of those races, to be honest, that you look at say 2 or 3 Aidens, and you look at the Appleby, and you say, okay, not only how they looked, but who's riding these horses. What are the thoughts on these? And so to me, that's going to be a big indicator on which way I play here. But I do think I'll probably be going international here.
Kind of feels it. Yeah.
All right, let's move over to Saturday. This is November 4th, Saturday. Race 3 is going to kick off the Breeders' Cup program. It's the Breeders' Cup, the Big S Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And we talked a little bit about this on the pre-entry show, where it's like, and I think you said it, it's like, well, we can't be like too surprised that it's not the ultimate dirt mile we've ever seen, because we have not the ultimate classic this year, so obviously that trickles down to this race as well. So you've got a horse like Cody's Wish, who's probably going to be one of the shorter prices of the day. I mean, it's really impossible, to be honest, as far as when you look from a numbers perspective, from a just past performance perspective, it's hard to discredit anything about Cody's Wish in this race. But that said, maybe you can try to beat him, and that's the case. Who you going with? It seems like there's a couple options in here, but not maybe who you would. Not as many options as you would maybe hope, and for that reason, you're probably going to get a shorter price if you do try to beat Cody's Wish.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. I think people are going to look at this and see the kind of the regression of Cody's Wish and see like where he comes from in his races, and is that really a good place to come from? 2 turns at Santa Anita? No, it's really not. I'm going against him, but I think my worry is I do like Practical Move. And again, like I said, I've said this a few times, nothing is set in stone, nothing, because we don't know post positions and all that kind of stuff. But I want Practical Move, but I'm afraid he's going to be like 5-2. Because if you're not going to bet Cody's Wish, you're going to gravitate to Practical Move when you watch the rest of these other horses on replays. They're not that good, but he is. So, a long story short, I guess Practical Move at this point is who I'm most interested in. Listen, a lot of people, including us, have said, "Hey, if Saudi Crowd was in this race, there's no doubt we'd be playing him to win." If you say that, I don't know how you don't play Dreamlike. So I think Dreamlike is another one, but it's just hard for me to think Dreamlike's going to win a Breeders' Cup race.
Which, by the way, I think one of the more shocking things, and I knew that they were going to run them in the Classic, but I was still surprised to see, for as many double entries as you see, for instance, if I scroll down here, you can see, let me look at all these horses, first preference Classic, I was surprised to see Saudi Crown not at least listed in this race and have first preference to Classic. Obviously, just man, this would be a race. As soon as he, really this summer, I was like praying. I was like, this horse needs to go to the Classic or the Dirt Mile, and this horse is going to romp. And unfortunately, he's in the Classic. I think it's a much tougher task. I don't know that he's going to be able to do it in that race, but here, I think he could have held off a horse like Cody's Wish. And speed wins this race typically, or you need to have somewhat of speed, and I do think that's kind of a detriment to a horse like Cody's Wish. I mean, I say that he's 7 for 7 at the distance, right? I mean, it's not like he's it's like, oh well, the distance, or the speed in this race. Well, but I still think there's an opportunity here to try to beat him. And I'm kind of with you. Dreamlike would be the one, and then obviously Practical Move. Practical Move for me is kind of where I'm leaning as of now. He has the tactical speed to win a race like this.
I think you hit it right on the head. You watch his replays, he really sits some really nice trips, and he really knows. I don't know if he knows or the jockey's telling him, and then the horse will listen. I don't know how that works really, but he puts himself in really good spots, and he is very, at least from what I can tell, a guy that's never ridden a horse, a guy that's never going to ride a horse, he listens to the command of the jockey pretty well. You can tell with that jockey being Ramon Vasquez, when he asks him to do stuff, that horse does it. And a lot of them don't, but he is very willing to do whatever he's asked. So I think that's really important in a race like this. And I think he's going to sit that perfect trip. He should be ready to run a pretty big race. And again, I'm just worried that he's 5-2, and I think he should be like 4-1.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing I'm most impressed with Practical Move is the fact that he's shortening up. Of course, he ran in the mile on his return race, but he's shortening up. What we saw that day too, and I get he was facing less competition, but we saw that move he makes in all of his races. But then he just kind of got gutty in the end of those races, and maybe he doesn't necessarily want to go a mile and an eighth, like preferably. And then at mile race last time out, we saw him kind of make that move and extend, because he set a tactical spot and then boom. You got to think. I also like the fact that Yak Tina was like, they had their eyes on this race all year. Well, since the issues and everything, like
Right.
They were like, let's see how he runs on this return race, and then obviously the Breeders' Cup would be a plan. And so they wanted to get there, and he beat Go Rocket Ride that day. Go Rocket Ride obviously went on to win in the Haskell. I think that's a nice win for him. He just was a gutty horse. He's a gutty horse who I think Cody's Wish, certainly at Santa Anita as well, is going to have his hands full to run down, because he will be ahead of Cody's Wish.
Yep. And I agree. Cody's Wish is going to have to run a good race to beat a horse like Practical Move. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
All right, let's go to race number 4, the Maker's Mark Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. Out of this race here, Gino Romantica has first preference in the mile. Other than that, you got 14 horses, 13 will run probably at least. This is a good one, man. This is a good one. You've got, we talked a lot about this one on the show earlier this week, where it's like With the Moonlight, Warm Heart, In Spiral, In Italian, even Fev Rover and Didia are really nice horses at times, especially Didia. I mean, Didia to me is like, as soon as that horse ran last time out, I was like, oh man, I might pick that horse in the Breeders' Cup. And then you look at this field and you're like, I might not even have the horse in my top 5. That's how good this race is.
Yep, absolutely. I was just over the moon, excited to watch In Spiral, Warm Heart, and Win Maryland. Those are the 3 horses I was just pumped to get on YouTube, watch those videos. I think In Spiral is definitely a monster, a big time monster. She has been really, really good. The problem, and I'm not going to call it a problem really, but the question mark for me, she runs at a mile. This is a much longer one. And I think that is a little bit of a question mark. This is a much longer race. We're going a mile and a quarter instead of a mile. I think a lot of people thought she would enter the mile, and she didn't. And I think that might be good, because there's a beast. We'll talk about that one in a minute. But I think Spiral is the most talented horse in the race. I was more impressed with her than Warm Heart. I do have Warm Heart up there pretty high. Might end up, putting her second, third, something like that. She looked really good. And I think the weird thing about both these horses, In Spiral stretching out, Warm Heart actually cutting back. So that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. But really good horses. I don't think Win Maryland can beat those two. You look at some of the American horses in Italian fed Rover, they might go out there and set it up for horses like Inspiral and Warm Heart. That's kind of my thoughts on that. I just don't know that they're going to be able to take this field gate to wire.
Yeah, what do you think of? I think the question mark I'm having with when it comes down between the two kind of big Euros, and that's Warm Heart and Spiral. Like you kind of alluded to it, but with Inspiral, they kind of have said like, yeah, like this is her, like basically like we want to get her to the Breeders' Cup one time, and this is it, and this is and the fact that she's never ran past a mile, she's been very much a miler type horse in her career. And is there any kind of like, well, we're not going to run her against the boys. So we're going to run her here. And this is kind of the best option. We'll see how she does kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I have a little bit of that, not a ton, because I do think she's like world class. But I do think you have a little bit of that, at least in the back of my mind. And then a horse like Warm Heart, who, I mean, it's hard to like. This is a horse that can go the distance. This horse is gonna have zero issue. Has won, gosh, 5 out of the last 6 races. Has been a really good horse. Several Group 1s. So to me, it's really hard to go either. I mean, it's really hard to make a choice between those two. Kind of has the Inspiral might be better, but maybe doesn't want to go this long, and then Warm Heart might be perfectly suited for the distance.
I couldn't have said it better. I mean, I think that's exactly what it is. And this is just going to be really fascinating. I went into this kind of thinking, okay, well, who's going to beat Inspiral? And it's like, yeah, you know what? They can beat her. And that's not to say I'm not going to pick her, but I don't think she's a slam dunk by any means. This Warm Heart is really talented. Didia, for us locally here in the United States, that was a pretty nice win last time out to get over the track. And like I said, anytime Chad Brown's in this, it's interesting. Like McCulloch, I don't think is the worst to play underneath, at least, so this is going to be a battle.
This, I mean, this is there? I mean, would you be surprised if a horse like Fev Rover or Didia upset these horses? I mean, and the other thing too is like here we are talking about this race, and we've barely mentioned An Italian. I mean, it is that obviously wouldn't be a shock to see An Italian win, but considering how she's ran, I don't know. I think the mile would have been a little. I don't know. The mile would have been maybe more interesting for her, but you kind of had an interesting take on why maybe they chose this route for An Italian.
Yeah, I think the speed, stretching out, don't have to face as much pressure, most likely stretching out than you would going a mile. I just kind of think that was why. To answer your original question, I would not be shocked at all if an American won, because of the question mark. Hey, will Inspiral be as prolific at a mile and a quarter? You just don't know until she does it, right? I mean, we talk about that in the United States here all the time. Okay, yeah, really, really nice, but can they do it at a mile and a quarter? We don't know on Inspiral, right? So I think we have a better shot to win this one than we do the next few turf races we're going to talk about.
It definitely feels to me, at least where I'm going. I'm going to like dive into these replays tonight and tomorrow, but like to me, it's going to be all about like who do I think visually. When in relation to those two, Warm Heart and Inspiral, it's like who do I think visually looks the best, and then past that, I'm just going to be like, you know what, distance wise, you could look at like you don't know, right? You just don't know. It's not like Inspiral was ran a mile and a quarter once and it didn't go well. You just don't know. And so to me, it's like take a look at these races, and I would do this in all of them when it comes to these kind of international horses. Like who do you think visually looks the best, and then roll with that one. So it's probably what I'll do in this one. All right, let's go to the filly and mare sprint. Maybe one of the worst ones of the card. We got a doozy of a race in the next or the first one there. Then we get to race 5, the filly and mare sprint, and I mean, look, Goodnight Olive looks to repeat here. Likely will do it. She's going to be tough. Should should get a nice pace set up as well. Good night, all. Thoughts on this race, Halterman?
Well, you mentioned watching replays, and one thing I urge you to do: make sure you go watch the races that happened at Saratoga after those 2 terrible breakdowns that we had on those big days, meaning the Whitney, meaning the ballerina, the Forgo, even the Travers. Our heads were not in the game. You need to go watch those again, because in my eyes, I thought Goodnight Olive didn't run very well leaving Saratoga that day. And I to be honest, I just hadn't watched those replays. I just had a terrible taste in my mouth. Yeah. So I went back today and I watched those today and last night and watched the replays. Goodnight Olive ran spectacular in that race at Saratoga in the ballerina where Ekozuo killed her. Goodnight Olive was fantastic. And I will promise you one thing. If she shows up and runs that race at Santa Anita, she will not lose. Now, I don't know if she does it or not. That's for another debate. And I don't know if she will or not. Let me tell you something. If she runs like she did in the ballerina, she'll win.
Well, and I know, like, as good as she was, for instance, she won the ballerina last year, and then she piggybacked off that. Of course, she won several races before that and after, but she won the ballerina last year, piggybacked off that, and ran basically the same race as far as the numbers perspective goes in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. She ran, from a number standpoint, she ran a significantly better race this year in the ballerina in that loss. Now, again, you got to be careful sometimes with that because of how good the winner looked. But she was only beaten 2.5 lengths, and Echo ran. I don't know what she got a 108, so I don't know what Echo got for the race. Had to gotten like a 112 or something.
I don't care about the numbers. I can tell you the replays. She ran a better race this year.
So there you go. And there's no reason to think, because let's take a look. I think that'd be interesting. Let's take a look at her body of work this year since being the Breeders' Cup winner. She came back off the layoff after the Breeders' Cup, won the Madison by 1. In the Derby City Distaff, she got possibly the worst ride of all time with IRAD and finished third. Got third to Wicked Halo and Materia.
It's a loss that should have been a win.
It's a third place finish that should have been a win. That's as bad as that was. Then went on to win the Bed of Roses, and then went on to win, or finished second, to the ballerina to Echo Zulu, who's not in this race. So the point of that being is she's lost twice this year. One of them shouldn't have been a loss. The other one was to a freak of nature. So if Echo Zulu would have ran in this race, would you have said that's a single, even though as good as you're liking Goodnight Olive now?
Yes, because she ran that huge race, and I did not realize how close Goodnight Olive was to Echo Zulu. When we watched that race, that was the race right after the breakdown that happened. And all we were watching was to make sure Echo Zulu didn't fall. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't watch any other horse in the race. So I watched the replay back. And again, this is the first time I watched any race from those days was today. I was just sick. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get myself to do it physically. Did it today. You watch that back. There's a point where it looks like Goodnight Olive may jump up and win. And Echo Zulu just found another gear. But yeah, I mean, if you watch that race back, Echo Zulu was just a monster that day. But Goodnight Olive was right there. Goodnight Olive, it's not like she wasn't a monster. She was. And she was just got beat.
Don't feel bad because, I think a lot of us, and myself included, felt the same way just after that weekend where you're just like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look back on it. I don't want to remember it, frankly. And so I'm with you. All I remember about that particular race, well, two things is, like you said, Echo Zulu, like, let's just pray that, like, you're just watching her legs basically and hoping she gets to the wire, which is insane to think about. And two is, I do remember, like, because we still had a win bet and had a lot of stuff going through her. And I remember thinking, like, not feeling like she had it, even though she had it. It was just like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, and that kind of goes to what you're saying with that Goodnight Olive gave her a test there for a second before she kind of pulled away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I will say this. I don't think if if Hoosier Philly is this let me look. Hoosier
Yeah.
Philly has first preference in the distaff. Okay, so if she were to run, no matter where she runs, I like Hoosier Philly is one of those horses that I don't think she'll take a lot of money in the distaff. Maybe she will, but I just do not like. I'm a Vivi's Dream Hoosier Philly antagonist this weekend or this next weekend, the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
Don't think they have any chance.
I'm seeing a lot of people comment, and we can wrap it up. A lot of people asking, hey, do you think Society can take the field gate to wire? You kind of said, horses don't usually go gate to wire in these sprints. I will talk about Society for a second. I think my biggest issue with her, and it's weird, when she's at like smaller tracks, she is just a beast. But when she steps up and runs against better horses, she's like nowhere to be found. So that's my worry with her. Like, so the question is like, can they do it? Or can she do it? Yeah, I mean, she can, but it would be the first time that she's beat like a legit field.
Yeah, I would be if I Goodnight Olive it has a lot of the things I like similar to Practical Move. That has like that versatile kind of tactical speed. Doesn't need to be on the lead, but can sit very close to a moving pace. And so with Goodnight Olive, I think that's kind of why she's so good. And in this race, I think there's a lot of speed in the race. Between the Baffert filly Ada, and then you've got like horses like Elm Drive, who has some speed. And then obviously Ugary is the horse that's got speed. Society has obviously speed, like you talked about. And for those reasons, I just think Society is not going to get like this clear, easy lead that she gets on some of these smaller tracks. And for that, she'll get pressured and then she'll fade. That's my thoughts.
I wouldn't be shocked one way or the other. I just think at the end of the day, I am going to stick with that. I just don't know. I wish she would have just somewhere along the line ran a race where you go, oh, well, she just stepped up a little bit and ran okay,
All right, let's look at the race 6, the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile. Dude, this is a Master of the Seas, Maj in here for Godolphin. You've got Songline, up to the mark, obviously in here, but going to run in the turf. In Italian, is going to run in the other one. But I'll take a look here. Gino Romantica has second preference. So Gino Romantica, Chad Brown opting to run her at this distance at the mile against the boys. And then the other ones have first preferences in Italian, up to the mark. Master of Foxhounds have first preference in the filly and mare turf and the turf races. So what do you think of this one? De Jour, this is a terrible horse, especially out west. And then, you've got Gino Romantica deciding to run here, or this trainer at least. And then you got the Godolphins. I think Maj running at a mile is smart. And then, of course, Master of the Seas. Really hard to, say anything negative about him. He's just been really, really good at this distance. And then Songline is super interesting for the Japanese contingent.
This race is nuts. Our Stephanie said it, but this is going to be a battle. These horses that are coming over here are Paddington. Looks like a monster to me. I mean, he is really good. Songline looks like a monster to me. A couple other European horses I'm really interested in as well. This is going to be a freaking war. Look, I also think Master of the Seas is in here with a shot, but gosh, I don't think he's Paddington or Songline. I mean, this race is so deep. Like, I have things could change 1,000% for sure. I've got Casa Creed 6th right now, and I like Casa Creed. I've got Maj 9th, and when Maj won at Keeneland, I thought, okay, we better look out for this one. I've got her 9th right now. I mean, I think this. I think this is just going to be a freaking slugfest.
I mean, you saying Maj 9th? That's incredible.
Again, a lot could change. Who actually comes over? Blah blah blah. But as of right now, that's where I've got her.
The Guinness winner, and then came over and won a Grade 1 over here in the QE 2 Cup at Keeneland. Going a mile and 1/8, needed all. Didn't need much to go any longer, or else would have gotten beat. Start cutting back to that mile distance that Maj is 2 for 2 at. So I think Maj in this race, to me, it's going to be hard for me to go against Godolphin here, which I know is not any kind of surprise, but just because, Master of Seas ran incredible in the turf mile and got beat by Up to the Mark and obviously won the Woodbine mile. I think he's going to be tough. And then I think, with Maj as well, Gino Romantica is got me like pausing a little because I'm like, okay, like you think she's that, like we've seen Chad Brown run some good ones in the mile, and you think she's that good to where you're going to run her, against the boys here. She loves this distance. I think she might be tough.
Let me ask you this, because I agree 1,000% with what you just said. But let me ask you this: who do you prefer, like most, Gina Romantica or Maj?
Boy, probably Gina by a slight margin.
Me too.
I'd say.
Me too.
It's close though. I just think I think it's closer than I would have expected it to be. But yeah, I think Gina Romantica ran so good. I thought that race to an Italian last out. I mean, just looked incredible, really. And by the way, like I think we've talked a ton about. Cannot believe that that Up to the Mark came up and beat Master of Seas. I cannot believe that an Italian got beat by Gina Romantica that day. I mean, an Italian looked home. And Gina Romantica just came and got her and ran, but like from a numbers perspective, and you can, all numbers, like whatever, but just that was the best race in Italian ever ran from a numbers perspective. So to me, from the eye test, it wasn't like, oh, she just ran poorly. I think Gina Romantica came up and got her, and that's saying something. So now let me just say this. It's also worth noting that was far and away the best race that Gino Romantica had ever ran. So there's that too.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Definitely. And I'll tell you how. So that was the OU Texas game, and I talk about when you go to that game, you literally don't have cell service for 3-4 hours until you get away from those fairgrounds. So I came back and I watched that race, knowing the result. I knew an Italian lost, and when they were halfway down the stretch, I kept thinking, somehow they've like lied to me. Like they like somehow they've lied. There's no way she lost.
Yeah.
And then she got beat. Yeah. So
I know. I mean, it was like, it went from like, oh, well, this is over, to, oh shit, here, she's not going to do it. Same with the Maj race. You knew Maj won and you're probably thinking, oh shit, like how did she win? It was close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's any Chad Brown. I think it's Chad Brown or one of the Godolphins for me. That's probably where I'm going here.
Yeah. And just to say one last thing on Maj, Kevin B made a comment. He said, I really liked the way that horse won the last race. I totally agree. And we talked about it after the race on our group chat. We're like, she won that race. It was a nice setup, right? She probably could have won by more. They were real easy, relaxed with her. Great.
Yeah. People go ahead.
But I was going to say, but this is a beast of a race. That's the thing. Just a monster of a race.
Yeah. People kind of shit on it a little. Not everyone, but a lot of people are like, oh, like she almost got beat, but it's like, it just felt like a very kind of planned, this is how we want to run her kind of race by Maj. I didn't ever feel like it was one of those like close finishes that never felt like it was going to be close, Yeah. And so I loved that they ran her once over here, before. So now you kind of have that and like, okay, they confirmed miles where we want to go. Boom. I think she's a nice horse. She's a pace presence without any question, just based off of that. So, All right, let's go to, I believe this is race 7, the Breeders' Cup Distaff. 13 horses pre-entered into the race. And Halterman, when I look at this one, well, obviously, I think a lot of things when I look at this one. One is we have no good Distaff horses right now. Or no, I don't want to like shit all over them, but we don't have any like world-class type horses.
You're right. Go ahead. Sorry.
And we also have a seemingly, I'll say that very loosely, but a seemingly definite pace meltdown scenario, like the blaring sirens going off when you have a field that's not that great of horses that like to go to the lead, and then there's some that just are going to sit off, and it just feels like some sort of collapse is pending. Who's going to get it done?
I mean, I just can't stand this race. So I'll start with that. This is one I just don't have anything really figured out. You go watch these replays, and it's like, yeah, they're just not very good. Idiomatic, I guess, is the one, but it just kind of feels like she's going to get beat by one of these. I'll probably try to go against her. I don't know. This is just such a tough race to decipher. I mean, it's just a nasty race. Like if they ran this race on a Friday at Belmont, I'd be like, yeah, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like I just don't like, it's not good.
Well, it also feels like if they ran this race like 10 times in a row, like you'd have like 6 different winners, you know, like it just feels like there's not any consistency with a lot of these. Sometimes you're going to get a horse that's going to win. Sometimes you're going to get a horse that, that won't run well. And so Idiomatic obviously is the now horse, right, of the group. Has won 4 in a row, has rattled off 4 straight triple-digit buyers, hasn't really done a lot wrong, has won in a mile 16th, has won in a mile 3/16, has won in a mile 1/8, has won in the slop, has won in the dirt, or the fast. So, I mean, there's not a lot to not like about Idiomatic. The only issue is she's kind of gotten away with just these cruising 48s, 112s, just loping out there fractions. And that's great, but we haven't really seen her tested yet. And I do think, even I mentioned Hoosier Filly. I think she's a horse that needs those easy leads as well. She's not going to get it here. And so I think those two alone are going to create some havoc. I just don't think that they can, randomize. There's another one, right? We haven't seen that horse since the Beldame. There's a lot of speed in here. It just feels like it's going to set up for somebody. And I get Clairiere, like, is the obvious answer when you talk about setup, but I mean, she's no. I could also see her like, oh, here that idiot comes late, and she runs up for like second or third, it looks like she's flying, That's the kind of performance you could see from her as well. I know Search Results won last time finally, but like, what if Search Results finally won a big one here?
I think it's possible, honestly. And I know you'll be like, come on, but I think it's possible she can. I think Leda Vita might win. I don't think she's out of the question because I do think the pace is going to set up for somebody to come from out of it.
Finished second Idiomatic last time out in the Spinster, coming from well off of it. It's been a horse that, has closed pretty much every single effort. I mean,
she's not good enough on paper, but
the other one would be Wet Paint, right? I mean, I hate to even say that, but won the CCA Oaks. Finished second to randomized in the Alabama, but a horse that's has that late closing kick to Clairiere as well, obviously. But I don't know. I can't. What if Pretty Mischievous does it? The Oaks winner.
I don't think it's impossible, and I don't think randomized is possible either. It's a toughie. It's a really confusing race, and the more, trust me on this one, the more you dive into it, the worse it gets. Most of these we've talked about, I like whether I'm right or wrong. That's another story altogether. But I at least have a pretty good idea in my head of how I think it's going to go. I don't know on this one. It's just a weird race.
And then you have Dare Manor. I mean, that the glaring question is if the class can, is going to be too much for her. But that's a horse that's rattled off 5 in a row. Love Santa Anita. It's Bob Baffert. Lots to like from that department, but this is a class test from the Zenyatta.
It doesn't feel like she could match up, but I mean, she's probably not for me, I guess is how I'd say it. But I wouldn't. if she wins, I'm not going to be on like the Saturday night show going, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
Could.
Let's go to race number 8, the Breeders' Cup Turf. This is maybe the best race of the card, in my opinion. I'm so excited for this one. 17 horses pre-entered into the race. Obviously 14 will go at tops, but listen, you got Warlike Goddess, you got Up to the Mark, you got Most Def, is like I like to say, Most of Def. Broom, Bolshoi Ballet, Auguste Rodin. Dude, I mean, this went from like, okay, I think Up to the Mark, even though I've been kind of shitting on him, he may just be able to win this race because, one, he's obviously very good, but two is like what international horses are coming, and then you look at what's showing up, and you're like, oh shit, we've got some options here.
If Up to the Mark wins this race, he is the horse of the year, in my opinion. No matter what happens, if Up to the Mark beats this group, he's the horse of the year. I will die on that cross. I don't care if Archangel wins by 10. If Up to the Mark can beat these horses, it's really something very, very special. I think Mostadov is just a monster. I've been so impressed watching his last 2 races. He has been just a beast. But I think that Auguste Rodin is pretty good. I think Ernesto is really good. King of Steel looked really good to me. I don't know if he's coming. I don't think he's going to. He looked awesome to me too. This is an awesome group. I think Most Def, as you like to call him, is the one to beat, though. He just, man, you just watch his races. He's just got like a motor, man. He just doesn't stop. And I don't think we're going to be able to beat a horse like that over here. But I say that he doesn't have to just beat Up to the Mark. He's got to beat other horses from overseas that are really good too. He faced Nashua and Paddington. I think it was either last time or 2 races back. It was last time out. And those horses started to kind of come up on him, and Frankie just started wheeling on that horse. Man, he dug in. You could like see him like lower his head and just take off again. And it's like, God, this horse, he's got a motor, man. But he can be beat because this field is sharp.
And it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting parts about this, but the fact that like this horse, and someone in the chat can correct me or tell me which race it was, that he was going to run, like he wasn't supposed to run over here. This was kind of the backup plan. They were going to run in the whatever overseas, and when it came up soft and too soft, they said no, the track's too soft. We're going to run the horse at the Breeders' Cup. And what track would you want a horse that, the QE2? Well, what horse would you want, or what race would you want a horse that wants fast or not firm turf? Yep. What track would you pick? And Santa Anita is pretty high on that list. And you ask and you shall receive. Back-to-back Group 1's winners at Ascot and York. Just that this is going to be a tough ask for Up to the Mark. Now, I will say this: he's done most of his damage at distances other than the 1.5 miles. Now, for what that is worth, he also won a 1 5/16 last time out, which for those math wizards out there is almost a 1.5 miles. So it's not necessarily like insane to think, oh well, 1.5 miles. But you just kind of look at the overall record. 1.5 miles has not been his bread and butter. Bottom line, though, he is the class of the group coming over here, in my opinion. And by the way, if you're watching this video on YouTube, if you see like the capture, the photo that I used on the screen there, that's Most Def, and I'm calling him that. That's just what I'm going to call him now.
I love it.
He's a cool looking horse.
It would be highly disappointing if he came over here and didn't fire, because you were kind of mentioning he's a cool looking horse. This is so dumb to kind of say this, but he just seems like a mean horse, man. It's just like, you're not getting by me type of horse. If you know what I'm saying, he just looks like a monster out there. But like I said, this Ernesto horse is talented, really talented. Augusta Rodin, really a talented horse. And listen, the thing that those horses have in common, they're running better on firm tracks. So all three of those I listed, seems like a firm track is really going to move them up. The Japanese horse in this race too. I don't know how you would say that horse's name. Shahariyar. I don't know.
Close. That's fine. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not the the judge on how to pronounce horses. So
he's not bad either. So I'm telling you, these horses are just monsters in this spot. It's the European horses that are coming over are making this Breeders' Cup a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I don't know about some of these, but like when you look at like, I mean, even a horse like Bolshoi Ballet, which I mean, I don't know. I was dead set against him that day. I had Soldier Rising. He just beat the pants off of Soldier Rising, who ran a good race, ran second, but Bolshoi Ballet looked awesome. So you kind of have that. Has ran over here several times. Ran in the Breeders' Cup Turf last year. Bolshoi Ballet did. I'm sorry, that was 21. But didn't run well. Kind of, I don't know. It's been like, I don't know. I didn't think this horse was like the super scary type horse. But Aiden O'Brien also brings over Augusta Rodin that you mentioned, and I think that's an interesting one as well. Likes the distance. Is a 3-year-old. That's kind of so you're facing the olders, and that I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty tough to see a 3-year-old win this race.
It definitely is. It's going to be a big challenge. It's happened though before. It happened at Del Mar a couple of years ago. But this horse, wait till you watch this horse. This is a monster. This Augusta Rodin. He is a freak. Like he's won 3 out of the last 4 in the race he lost. He just didn't show up as a yielding course. He just didn't ever pick up his feet. Those wins, he just digs in and says, I don't think so. You're not getting by me. You kidding me right now? Like seriously, he's really good.
Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate that. Great show. And Michael says this might be the best horse field he's ever seen in his whole life. I mean, that says something. Because not to mention, like we've been rattling off about how good these horses are, and we've barely talked about Up to the Mark and Warlike Goddess. Which say what you want about Warlike Goddess, she's been pretty damn awesome her whole career, and obviously facing the boys here. They do this, obviously, they know the distance is what she's best suited for, going 1.5 miles. But thoughts on? I'll at least ask you about her. I think we can, at least I can say, I'd kind of written her off, and as far as winning these kind of races, and then kind of shoved it down my throat there, and won last time out in the Turf Classic. Thoughts on her coming in this race off of a nice performance?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see. I'm glad she's here. Warlike Goddess and Up to the Mark, they're horses that they could win. They definitely could win. But you almost like, God, I kind of feel bad that I've got them, down here in like 5th or 6th or 7th. Like they're way too good to probably finish there. But it's just one of those things. Like you just look to this field. It's like, holy shit, they're good. All these horses are really good.
Yeah, this is the race, man. This is the race of the day, and you got to follow this from this race to the Classic, which is race number 9. If there was ever a year to do it, it's this year, right? They did it because of the West Coast and the football schedules and all that shit. But you got 2 races after this in the Breeders' Cup. 18 horses pre-entered, obviously 14 max. Arabian Night. I mean, listen, we've been talking about this field for all year almost, seems like. So obviously not a lot to say, but Arabian Night, Arcangelo, Bright Future, Charge It. So you got 2 Japanese horses, Dermis Otagaki and Ushba Tesoro. You've got Go Rocket Ride, Mage. King of Steel is, I don't think King of Steel is going to first preference he has in the turf. And maybe not come over at all. Mage, Proxy, Saudi Crown, Senior Buscador, Ushbacero, White Barrio, Zandon. I mean, it is what we thought it was going to be, right? I mean, there's no real surprises of the race. Does anything change for you?
Not really. I did watch all the replays again. Again, urge you to go watch the Travers again. I thought I like Arcangelo a little bit more after watching it. I think he's pretty good. I still don't think he's like some kind of elite horse, but he's obviously very good. I mean, White Barrio is kind of a standout. If he could do the Whitney thing again, he wins a race like you would want a classic horse to win. He sits a trip that you kind of want to sit at Santa Anita, all those kind of things. But boy, oh boy, you just watch that race and then you watch all of his other races. It's just night and day, the difference. It's incredible. So, and I've heard the training's been really, really strange. So I don't know if you can, back him, but you watch replays. It's like, well, yeah, if Ida Barrio shows up that race, he wins, so, but I just don't think the chances of that are very good. And if they're not, it's a grab bag. Archangelo, Arabian Night, Go Rocket Ride. I think they kind of trade wins here or there. Ushba Tesoro, went back and watched his races. Can't say he doesn't have a chance, right? I mean, he looked pretty solid. I don't know who he's facing. That's kind of the question mark. I wish the race was like a mile and 16th. I think Saudi Crown could win it, but I just don't think he'll get, a mile and a quarter. So it's a long way to say, things really aren't all that clear for me still on this.
Yeah, you just kind of roundabout way said, I have no freaking clue yet. Still.
Well, they all have their problems and they all have their things that are good about them too.
Yeah. The more I've looked at it and handicapped it, it feels like, Archangelo is going to be the one, right? That's like, I was against him in the Travers and looked stupid, and was against him in the Belmont, looked stupid, and probably going to be against him here and could very well look stupid again. I just think if there's a 3-year-old going to do it, I'm going to bet my money on the guy that's done it with multiple 3-year-olds over the years and recent years, and that's Baffert and Arabian Night. I'm not going to overthink that one too much. If I'm not picking 3-year-old, I think you just throw a dart, really. I don't think that you might think this is crazy, but I don't think Bright Future is in without a chance whatsoever. Has kind of figured out how to do it the last couple races, it seems like. And with no Forte now in the race, Rapoli's going to want that win, right? So he's going to do everything they can do to get the horse in the winner's circle. And then obviously, like you mentioned, with Wida Barrio and obviously my boy Ushba. That's the one I keep going back to. But I'm with you. Hasn't faced that difficult of fields. I do think Saudi Crown. The more I've kind of looked, I think I've been kind of writing him off, like, oh, he should have ran the dirt mile. And again, I don't know that he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win, I should say. But I think he's going to give it a run. I don't necessarily think Saudi Crown's going to like toss in the towel in the turn. I think the way Brad Cox trains, the way they've decided to run here, like, we're going to have that moment where it's like, oh shit, like, they're going to have to come get him. Someone's going to have to, you know what I mean? Like, he might give it a go. And then ultimately, like, the mile and a quarter just turns out to be just a little bit too far for him, certainly in this race. And then it's enter, whatever horse, I wish I knew what that horse was.
Yeah. I can't sit here and say I'd be shocked if he does it, because he does kind of.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, he does kind of have that look, of one that, especially at Santa Anita, it's like, we can keep going. We can keep going. We can keep going. Shit, they never caught him type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you even look at like the Jim Dandy. Now, granted, he did get beat ultimately by Forte and maybe a debatable finish, but still, like, and you just knew, like, they're going to get to him. They're going to get to him. No, they're not. They're not. You know what I mean? Like, it just kept on hanging in there. And, I know that you're going longer than a mile and 1/8 here, but you can still see him kind of hanging on and making this thing interesting.
Yeah, I definitely could. I wouldn't talk anybody off of him if you're going to give him a shot. This race is the ultimate. If you get it right, you kind of go, okay, I got away with one a little bit there. It's like, I got lucky. The other side of it is, every one of these horses, when you pick it, bet it, whatever you want to do, or however you want to say it, they could make you look really foolish. Like, betting Archangelo as a favorite and he runs fourth, you're going to feel like shit. If you pick Ushba Tesoro,
Oh, that's an all.
If
or
he
nothing
doesn't
pick right
run
there,
well,
buddy.
you're gonna sit there and go, "I just picked a freaking Japanese horse
Yep.
to win the Classic."
That is an
You know,
all or nothing pick, man.
in most years I would be like, "Don't do it. Just don't do that." But this year I'm not going to tell you that because I think he might win. Uh, I'm going to just lean on Baffert, and then that horse doesn't run very well, or I'm going to go crazy and try to get one home with Bright Future, and he runs last. Like that's it. That's this race in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's we've seen I saw a comment saying 3-year-olds usually run well, and those 3-year-olds are usually trained by Bob Baffert. We've seen it done. He's the only trainer, by the way, to do it with a 3-year-old, and he's done it 4 times. So it's not like I'll give someone a dollar of Monopoly money if you can tell me the 4. But it's not that hard to come up with, by the way. But still, the point is, and Arabian Night has a lot of the Bayern feels, in my opinion. I've said that like really all year, but he did, you know what I mean? Where Bayern kind of had a little bit of steam. Now, obviously, Arabian Nights had more steam, but he kind of faltered, took some time off, didn't see him. Then we started to kind of get him back into shape, and he really peaked at the end of the year. And that's a little bit of, to me, what Arabian Night has been doing. And if there is going to be a 3-year-old, it seems like it's going to be him. I mean, but
I'm kind of worried he's going to take too much money.
Totally. I mean,
he is the buzz horse in the mornings.
I also wonder too with him, we went on and on, right, about Saudi Crown and the speed, and maybe he's the horse to catch, and if they can catch him, and maybe he'll go the whole way. And I mean, doesn't Arabian Night? That's all he does too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of this, I think, is going to depend as where these horses draw, and kind of where the tactics of that race. If you think Arabian Night is going to steal the thing, well, that's going to be tough, considering Saudi Crown is a huge pace presence of the race.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. One last thought. Is Senior Buscador impossible?
I don't think anybody's impossible in this race, to be very fair. I would be he would fall under the list of I'm surprised he won. Like, I'm surprised that horse won. But I'm not like on the floor, never saw that one coming type surprise. I'm not, Rich Strike surprise. I think everybody's fair game in this one.
I think it has a chance to fall apart. I think he has experience over the track. I think kind of he'll come with a little bit of a run. I think he could get 3rd or 4th. I'm being serious.
No, I low key love him underneath. Because I do think he likes the track. He has experience at the track, and he's that horse that just has no shot, but it's just going to be kind of flying late, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pick off some really bad horses that maybe are struggling late in the race. I got a question for you. Has Zandon lost his? And this is weird to ask it this way, but you'll understand why in a second. Has he lost his kind of like it factor as being the horse that you can key in second? Is he too good now? Did something happen in that race where now you're like, I keyed Zandon and he won? Then you feel like a really big idiot that you keyed Zandon and he didn't pick him to win.
A lot of sentences have been said about this Classic this year that are weird. Hey, I don't think Senior Buscador is impossible. That's weird for a Classic. Hey, is Zandon lost the luster to finish second? That's weird for a Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I love him. I love that horse, but
I don't.
Would be more surprising for you, Zandon to win or Senior Buscador?
Buscador.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right. Obviously, the Classic, we'll have a ton more on that, and the handicapping is going, and we're next week we'll be at Saratoga at Santa Anita. We'll be talking about our picks and our final picks, and we'll be locking them in over the coming weeks. But that's a look at the field there. And let's go to the next one. We have 2 races, right? While everybody's, on TV has turned it and watching college football, we're still at Santa Anita with 2 races left 3 races really, count race 12, but 2 more Breeders' Cup races The turf sprint is race 10, and you got 21 pre-entered. Only 12 will run here, but thoughts on this one? Jasper Crone, the Japanese horse, going to show up here. I thought maybe he might run in the sprint. They're choosing to run at least first preference in this one. Caravel, your defending champ. People forget this is a horse that, won this race last year. I mean, they may not forget that she won the race last year, but they probably forget that she won the race at 42-1. And now all of a sudden you're going to take, I mean, I don't know, like off the top of my head, but that feels like we were talking about a horse from last year, like there can't be a bigger price difference in a defending champ in that next year than that. 42-1 to what is she going to be, like 5-2, 2-1?
Yep. I think I can't give a whole lot of insight on this one. This is another one. It's post positions, I think, going to be really important. I think this is a rider's race. Going 5 furlongs on the turf at Santa Anita, it usually is a rider's race. I'm not playing Caravel. I guarantee you that. Not as the favorite. I mean, if she wins, great, but I'm not. I can't do it. I'll probably just take a small shot with a little bit of a long shot here. Not sure who yet. This is just a weird one.
The thing that's concerned, and like the thing is with her, is that it's like, okay, this is such a speedy race. Obviously, it used to be, going 6.5 down on the downhill at Santa Anita. Now it's not. Obviously, it's a straight sprint, 5 furlongs. I mean, they fly, especially out here at Santa Anita. So normally you'd be like, well, Caravel obviously fits that one to a T, right? Like that's kind of her game. But the thing that's concerning for me, is even the one she won in the Jaipur, the last 3, she's not gotten to the lead, Certainly the last 2 were very eye-opening, I thought. And that just, for a horse that has done one thing and one thing really, really good, and that's just blaze, right? From the start, from the time they open the gates to the time they cross the wire, kind of makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder if she's lost a little bit of her step.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to, she did almost win last out, and it's not like she's terrible.
No.
But I just think there's an opportunity to try to beat her at what will be a short price.
Yep. I agree. It wasn't that good of a race for her at Keeneland. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like, okay, yeah, now she's going to go win the Breeders' Cup type. So
I think Jasper Crone is going to be a pick of mine, I think.
Okay.
I'm basically, I think I'm just going to go through these and when I handicap, and just who do I think is the fastest of the bunch, really? I mean, because I think we're going to see a horse that's going to try to go. It might just run them off their feet. No Balls is an interesting one for sure.
Yep.
Obviously proved, I thought, to be faster than Caravel the last few, but again, No Balls has a little bit of the, I can't believe a horse named No Balls won the Breeders' Cup, so I don't know if I can go quite that far. It's kind of like when you pick a Derby winner, it's like I can't pick that horse based solely on the name. All right, let's go to the last one here. The Breeders' Cup Sprint, the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint, 11 horses pre-entered. The first preference on Jasper Crone, so 10 horses. But, Elite Power, another one of those Goodnight Olive type feels where it's like, okay, won the race last year. Maybe you want to try to beat him, but the question is who, and does he still have it left in him to do it?
Gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do on this one either. I got to figure out these last 2 because I watched all the replays. Like I said, Elite Power, I don't think he ran very well last time out. I know, and he's like, well, he ran second. Of course he didn't. But, it's like, hey, him, Gunite, really good race. Gunite just got the best of him today. I don't really think Elite Power did much in that last race. I didn't really like his race last time out. Now, his other races, obviously, you like a lot, including the one that won the sprint here last year. I don't know. I just didn't like Elite Power that much. So I'm thinking about going somewhere different. Just haven't decided yet.
By the way, just to clear this up, Kevin, it is Crone. I get it. I thought the same thing. I've been saying Crone all along. Go watch one of his replays. They say Crone. I don't know. You got me. But I'm with you. I do. I wonder with Elite Power. I don't know. That last race had a little bit of the concerns. You kind of opened my eyes to that a little bit, where it's just like, the Vanderbilt was one of those where it's like probably should have lost, but just ran awesome. I mean, just ran his eyeballs out. And then that Forgo just can't, I get you can make the excuses here and there, whatever. Like, but I mean, that horse, he just didn't run very well. Yeah, just plain and simple. I mean, he got beat by almost 2 lengths. It's not like it was like to the wire like it was to Goodnight when he beat him. Goodnight just kind of beat the crap out of him.
He started to kind of make a move, and then Goodnight kind of separated a little bit more, and Elite Power just kind of quit. And again, I may end up picking him, but at this point, it's like I don't know. I didn't like that very well. I just didn't think he ran all that well. So, and I think it'll be a really short price. Maybe we can try to beat him with somebody. I see a lot of people talking about Speedboat Beach, and I get it, but I don't know. Let's see what kind of jockey they put on.
Yeah. Well, the easy answer for everyone would be if some reason Espinosa rode him again, then you could just be like, well, good, don't have to use him now.
So this was okay. This was my theory on it when it happened. I was really interested in Speedboat Beach when he entered last time. And they put Espinosa on him. And so it's like, yeah, don't worry. He'll never ride him again. Okay, why in the hell did he ride him that time? Like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? What went into that? Because I was all excited for him to come back. I saw Espinosa. I'm like, oh, they don't like this horse as much as I like him. And then he ran the best race out of anybody, I thought, that day. But I don't know. It's weird. I hope we'll see the jock. We'll see the jock situation. That'll make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to do that. He's not going to ride him. So you got to know you're going to get an a better jockey situation. But man, I don't know. Speedboat Beach for me, that he ran so good off of that long. I mean, it was an insane layoff, and to run that good,
yeah,
didn't use his speed either, which was just infuriating. So, kind of want and then the Trojan Vron, that's a horse that I feel like is getting disregarded, just purely because of this horse, the Calbred but kind of put that to bed a little bit last time out in the Bing Crosby. Ran an awesome race, beating Anarchist, beating Dr. Shivel. This horse is going to be a big price, and wouldn't be totally shocked. Loves Santa Anita, obviously, 7 for 8 at Santa Anita, and Santa Anita, and then the other one obviously is Dr. Shivel. He runs his race pretty much every time. Six wins and 9 starts at the distance, and 4 wins and 6 starts at Santa Anita. Loves the track, so that's another one that if you think Elite Power is not going to win, is vulnerable, and you think Speedboat Beach, say for instance, is going to be too low of a price to it's kind of similar to if you think you're going to beat Cody's Wish, but Practical Moves just you don't love the price. If that's a similar situation, I have no problems taking some shots with some of these other ones.
I agree. I just got to decide who, and do I want to take Speedboat Beach? I think that's the thing, and probably going to get bad a little bit. You worry about that a little bit too, is how low of odds are we going to have to take on him? But to me, like I watched that race, go, well, he just lost because the jock's an idiot. So I don't know. I mean, I think he'll bounce back and run even better, and if he does, he's going to be tough.
I mean, if Velasquez was on Speedboat Beach, that would be nice.
If anybody that it's like, oh, that's a jockey that Baffert uses, great. You know what I mean?
Like anybody with a pulse, maybe. I mean, even if like Kevin B wanted to ride him, I might still be interested in him. At the very least, the same amount as I was with Victor Espinosa. But there you go, guys. There's a look at all 14 of the Breeders' Cup World Championship races. Next week, next Friday and Saturday at Santa Anita. Card will officially come out early next week, so stay tuned for that at racingdudes.com. But there you go. There's our first take at the pre-entries.
Whew. Yeah.
Whew. It's a doozy, man.
Good one.
I'm excited.
Yeah, once you get through all of it, it's like, okay, this is going to be better than you think.
See, Kevin, I have no doubt you could do it. Yeah, I would definitely poop my pants on a horse like that. That's what I always get when I tell people like about what I do and all this stuff, and I was like, I have no interest ever in my life to get on a horse, and it's probably because all I know is race horses. The people that have just rode like regular horses growing up, or whatever. It's probably like no big. You think it's not a big deal, but whenever all you see is these freaking these horses that are just lunatics on the track, you're just like, you know what? I like my life. I do not want to die.
Well, I mean, the next thing would be like, oh, here's this nice one. He's real nice. He's real gentle. And I'd get on him and he'd go crazy. I just know it.
Oh man. Yeah, I think next is running in whatever that bullshit marathon race is. So
yeah.
Probably the lock of the Breeders' Cup, just not in the Breeders' Cup race. So
yeah. Should be an easy win.
We pushed our the pool we have, which is very little, to that barn, but that he should run in the classic, but it was to Novel. So it's dinner on me Thursday. I don't know. In and out, maybe.
I think we land at 4. We'll probably get to the Airbnb. We'll probably order Domino's and we'll do the podcast. I'd say that's Thursday.
Yep. And then Friday, I think we got that one figured out.
Same thing. Go to the track, go home, go to the Airbnb, do a Friday show.
We put a lot of effort into the Airbnb because it's like we know we're going to spend, other than the track, right? That's where we're spending all our time.
Well, unfortunately, this is not a vacation for us.
No,
this is the
other
than Derby week. This is our 3 busiest days of the year: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So
it's the opposite of vacation. Yeah. Vacation is when we get back home.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a couple of weeks there before like the Thanksgiving week where it's a little bit lighter. You can kind of relax a minute. Yeah.
I mean, really, if you want to know like a little inside of like what of our trips, especially these kind of trips, it's like Domino's or whatever, like something easy like that, and then it's Starbucks. I mean, we find the nearest Starbucks and we frequent the shit out of it, or have it sent to us, and then booze, handicapping, and the track. That's it.
Yep.
We don't. We used to go out there, especially like out of Santa Anita where we have buddies. We'll try to run. Try to hang out with John and Ryan one night. I'm sure maybe Saturday night, but it's like it's almost impossible now if you don't, unless you get out there, week before or week after, just so you have time to actually do that, because otherwise you just don't.
Pretty much. I mean, I think Saturday is about the only chance. Yeah. Because, Saturday, depending on how the Breeders' Cup goes, so that's probably a fun night, and then like say back home on Sunday. It's gonna be a whirlwind trip for sure.
This is not related, but like Stephanie said, our Stephanie says we'll be out going to In and Out immediately, which is always a good bet. Like I will probably maybe try to talk Alterman into doing that instead of going to Domino's. But yeah, I will say this: like I have here in Missouri, we've started, especially in our area. I don't know if it's in Joplin yet. We've been getting Whataburgers like left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys getting any in Joplin?
We don't have any in Joplin. I think one's gonna get built though, but not at the moment. No, but
obviously they've opened up their territories from Texas and that area down, going up north. But because Whataburger's not good. Like I don't get the hype between Whataburger, and I get that I'm probably gonna fight some people about that, but I mean, In and Out. I mean, from a strictly burger perspective, In and Out is light years ahead of a Whataburger.
100%. Whataburger is okay.
Yeah,
but that's where
okay,
it is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. It's not like it's a terrible burger. It's just not the hype that you get all this shit about. Like it's like, oh, I can't believe it. When Whataburgers opened here, dude, there were lines.
Yeah,
they had to get police like escorts to like get traffic It's crazy. People were lining up at midnight for it to open the next day. It's just, I was like, for a burger.
That's stupid for there. I never. I ate them in Oklahoma before because they have them, and it's just like, yeah, I ate a couple times. Like, yeah, I'm not going out of my way to do this again. Like, and again, I'm not saying it's like they're awful, but it's like, yeah, they're just okay.
Give me In-N-Out burgers with Five Guys fries. Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with In-N-Out or Five Guys for the burgers. I think they're very, very good. Five Guys really good, In-N-Out really good, Shake Shack really good. Like those burger places, much better than Whataburger.
Totally. I saw, it made me think of it because every time there's one that's really close to my house that they just built, and it's always, especially you go around lunch or whatever, it's just crazy packed, and I don't get it. I mean,
I don't either.
I've yet to go to. I took the boys there once when they were opened up in Republic, just because I was like, well, let's see what the hype's about, Yep. It wasn't. I didn't get it. So
it's not very good. It's not very good. Kevin was talking about like Chick-fil-A. People are where he's at. They open one. People are going crazy. Chick-fil-A is better than Whataburger, I think.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, Chick-fil-A is from a chicken standpoint, man. It's now I'll say this: it's good. The French fries are fantastic, but it's not. I mean, it's not like spectacular, It's not it's kind of like Whataburger in a sense that it's overhyped, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, there isn't a place in this country, fast food or not, that knows how to work through a line like Chick-fil-A.
Agree.
There just isn't. I've never seen a Chick-fil-A. I've seen Chick-fil-A lines go around the block, and I've never waited in the Chick-fil-A line longer than like 15 minutes.
Yep, agree. They're very good. They're very, very good at getting in and out. But it's not the greatest I've ever had, but it's good. I mean, I would rather have Chick-fil-A. Like I said, it's not bad. But yeah, I didn't know that like people were lining up for Whataburger. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, I guess I'm hungry now. So, all right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racedudes.com for our free picks and, of course, our premium products. Just click that premium products button at the menu at racedudes.com. You learn more. You also can go get your hands on our Belmont, our Breeders' Cup. Belmont's over. Our Breeders' Cup betting Bible available right now. It also includes the 14 trends. I kind of alluded to some of those trends today on the show, but you get all 14 trends for each of the races included absolutely for free with your Bible to the Breeders' Cup. I've been working on that all afternoon. It's looking good. Obviously, the content's going to be getting in there over the next couple of days as we start to hone in on these races. Don't forget, Breeders' Cup. You get a free ticket. If you subscribe to our channel, leave a comment on who you think is going to win the Classic. We'll go through those, pick out a winner. We'll let you know, and you'll get a free ticket to both Friday and Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. Thank you to our good friend Shoddy for providing that. Racing News. We're on Twitter at racing_dudes. Instagram and Facebook. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, all the places you listen to. We are there. Dude, by the way, I was looking just randomly at our podcast page on our Apple Podcast page, and it's like going through the reviews, and like we have like a 4.6 out of 5, but it just cracks me up. There was a few on there that I was reading that I had never seen where it's like, just go for the entertainment only. They don't know how to pick horses. And or one was like, these guys, they don't know how I would hate to go to a bar with these guys because they don't know the sex of a horse. It's just like, okay, that's weird. But no, so go leave us a 5-star review and maybe leave something legible. So maybe you can help out the other people that want to listen to Blinkers Off. Go check out the Magic Mike Show. All the same platforms are doing Keeneland Saturday late pick 5 preview. Get their analysis of that late pick 5 this weekend at Keeneland. All right, Alterman, final thoughts.
See everybody next week for Blinkers Off. Can't wait. It's going to be fun. It's always a fun show that we do out at the Breeders' Cup. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. I think everybody's excited for it. So I am. I know that. So everybody have a good weekend. Everybody enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see you right back here next week.
Thought real quick, just to let the people know, are we doing like we did last year, where we do blinkers off for Friday, the Friday picks on Thursday, and then Saturday picks on Friday?
Yeah, I definitely should do a Thursday and a Friday show. So that's what we'll do. And then Saturday, I know we did a Saturday show in the past. I don't know on it though, but we'll be live Thursday night and Friday night.
Yeah, we'll see about for sure. Stay tuned. Blinkers off for picks for the Breeders' Cup. Our official picks will be on 1 week from today, Thursday, and of course Friday as well. All right, guys. Next time you see us, we'll be at Santa Anita. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck in your handicapping endeavors, and good luck at the Breeders' Cup.
We're not gone yet.
Look, I clicked it like 2 times.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.